All right. So the title of my talk tonight is Do More. And by the way, this is not an AI-generated title, cover page. I did this myself. And I'll talk a little bit about what I'm going to do here with the format. Do more. It's kind of vague. And I put that title out about a month and a half ago when I signed up to do this. I had no idea what I wanted to talk about. And I still, the secret here, which will be apparent shortly, is I still don't know what I want to talk about. So I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff. I spent the last 8 weeks or so just putting stuff in a folder of, what things I thought would be good to kind of cool to talk about. And I had this big stack. And then I went to try to whittle it down, and man, it was all too good. So I'm gonna work through quite a bit of it tonight. Kind of 4 presentations here, really quick. I'm going to blast through them. Small group, so ask questions, challenge me. Part of the process here tonight is to get feedback from you all about what you're interested in hearing more about. So if there's some topic here that inspires you, that you want to hear more about, we can do a whole class or a whole session, a meetup session on any one of these topics. Some of them I could talk about for a week, and you'll see those. But I also want to inspire you to talk to this group yourselves. So if there's something here that you take away and you do, come back next time or in a few weeks or months and present your own work. Because this group can be informal and we can all learn this stuff together. So this is the first of 4 topics here. Do more, and the topic here is hire an agent. And what I mean by that is use agentic harnesses when you use AI. And I'm sure everybody here, since you're here, knows what AI is. You use an LLM, you bring it up, you chat with ChatGPT, it gives you some output. You might take that output and put it into a Word document or a presentation. You might take some code, if you're technical, take the code and put it in, copy paste. And that's the kind of the first, that's the baby way to use AI. It's good, but it's, there's a whole lot more, and the whole lot more is using an agent. If you're using ChatGPT, change over to Codex. If you're using Claude, use Claude Code. What you get out of this is instead of just chatting with AI, the AI will actually do something. Backing up a little bit, each of these topics that I'm going to talk about tonight comes from a conversation or something that happened between now and when I signed up to do this. So it's hopefully pertinent. And the thing this actually came to my mind last night because I'm sitting in a meeting of the Harvey County, the Harvey County Rural Water District number 1. And I'm trying to pull up a contract that they sent us. And just so I can print it out, or I can look at it and review it before I have to sign it and write my check for a water meter. Crazy big check, by the way, for a rural water meter. But anyway, I'm sitting there and the contract isn't on my laptop. I know for a fact that it's in my Obsidian vault and it's not on my laptop. And what had happened was iCloud, the document store on my Mac Studio in my office had failed replication and wouldn't replicate. And I don't know if you know anything about Macs, but there's not a whole lot of buttons to push, which is a good thing until something breaks, and then there's no fix-it button. So I had no way to fix this thing. And I just pointed Claude at it, and I said, hey, iCloud isn't replicating. I have no idea why. Fix it. Don't lose my data, but fix it. And I could have Googled that and figured it out and maybe get a list of 10 commands. It could be this, could be that, blah, blah, blah. But Claude Code went out there and drove my Mac Studio to fixing that problem. It was a replication metadata problem that happens when you use Hermes, which is Rob Dixon talked about in the last session. When you use Hermes with iCloud, it changes too many files too fast, and sometimes the metadata can get out of sync. Also happens with Dropbox and other things. So anyway, the point here is Claude Code fixed my problem. I didn't have to do anything. It fixed my problem. I didn't lose my data. And that's what you get when you use an agent. Not only can you chat with it, and it works fine as a chat client, but you can also tell it to do stuff. And next slide here, I originally thought when I was setting up this topic, that the CLI version of Claude Code was significantly more functional than the GUI version. Turns out that's not the case anymore. They're almost in parity. So you don't have to go the CLI route. You can use the Claude Code tab or whatever it is. I've never used the GUI for Claude Code, but you can use the tab and it does everything or almost everything that the command line version does, and some other stuff like remote connections and stuff like that. So just if you're using Claude Code, go in, if you're using the Claude desktop or you're using ChatGPT, go in and find the GUI, go into the GUI, find Claude Code or Codex, and just play with it. Let it do things on your computer. Let it search your computer and find all the big files or where you're, whatever, the storage that's going to waste or whatever. It can do that. It can optimize the computer. It can, give you ideas for making the computer run more efficiently. It can fix problems. Put it on a Linux box and it will admin the Linux box for you and make the break fix go away if you're interested in that. So anyway, highly recommend switching to an agent. Hire one. Okay, next topic. Do more data, more fun, right? This is the topic that I'm quite passionate about. And to show my passion, does anybody remember Steve Ballmer standing up at you probably don't, I'm kind of old. 2000, he stands up in front of the Windows Developer Conference and just starts screaming developers, and pull up the video. When you go home tonight, pull up the video. It is nuts. The guy has to be on cocaine or something. He's sweating. This is not retouched. He's sweating that bad. It's dripping, and he is just screaming developers, and he sounds like a madman. That's me with data, right? Data. And I think Steve Ballmer today would scream data because AI is making data cheaper to use and easier to use and more valuable at the same time. So it's actually changing the economics of how we work with data entirely. And it's also doing that with code, but anybody can do that with code, right? You can write features in software are free today because of these agents that I just talked about. But the data is yours. Not everybody has your data. Not everybody has your experiences, knows your processes. So that's your moat. And when you're working with AI and you're working in business today, your moat is your data. So the foundation for this chat is a chat I had with, I have a buddy that works at Siemens. He worked for a hedge fund-owned company. They were bought by Siemens. And I don't want to give away too much about what they do, but because it would out him. But they basically have a whole bunch of customers. They have a SaaS product that keeps track of how to manage facilities, and they throw away a lot of their data, right? And this it's not unique to this company. I'm not picking on them. This happens with every organization I've talked to in the last 10 years. They're throwing away data because it's too hard, it's too expensive to keep, it's too complicated. Just inertia, I don't know what else, but they're throwing away data, and that's their moat that they're throwing away. And the too hard and the too expensive, those problems have gone away. It's super easy to fix that problem with AI. And I'll show you a little baby example here in a second. But the data, they can actually now, and they're starting to, this organization, they're starting to do this, aggregate the data from all their customers, pick out best practices from the high-performing customers, and sell that data back to the same customer. They can sell the data back, or the conclusions that they make from that data back to the customers. And it's a product. They sell access to a customer's data back to them, and make a lot of money doing that. But I wanted really quick to show you a quick example of what you can do. Hang on, bear with me. I opened up more windows since I set up this. So I have in a folder in Obsidian, I have my Evergy bills. I just scanned them, put the JPEGs. Some of them are JPEGs, some of them are PDFs. I have them in a folder. And I told Claude, this was Codex. I gave Codex a one-line thing. Make me a single-page analytical dashboard as an HTML document so that I can analyze my electric usage. Here you go. It gives me this. Now it looks AI, right? I mean, it's a one-shot little AI dashboard, and it looks like it. but it still has some pretty cool functionality. I think the most interesting part is this year-over-year analysis of where we're using the most electricity. And you can see the hump in the summer, of course, because of AC. And you can see the spike on 2025 in July. I have no idea what that is. I'm thinking about it, though. And then today, I get a message from Evergy that says, your usage is higher than last year. So this year, Jen, we're going to be higher than the spike. It's been hot, right? And that's why. But it was pretty interesting for me. And one thing I took away really quick, we're spending about $2,000 a year on electricity. So I got to thinking, $2,000 a year, how much is solar, right? And this is me. I'm not even prepping now for tonight. I'm just like, what does the payback look like for solar? So I said, if you look at the bottom here, Codex extracted all the data for our energy usage out of the PDF. So it's all here. So now I point Codex back at this document and I say, do an analysis and tell me if solar is going to pay back, and create a single page HTML analytical dashboard. Well, it does that. And I kind of knew the answer to this, but I wanted to confirm that I wasn't missing some secret sauce in solar, but it doesn't really pay back. And that's what this says. I'm not trying to make a political statement here because I love solar, but economically, it doesn't necessarily pay back. And that's because this costs $21,000 to get a reasonable size. And what Codex did, it went out to the solar providers and didn't get direct estimates, but from articles and things about how much it costs to put solar in Kansas. It knows how much Evergy pays you for surplus solar or surplus electric usage, which is minimal, and that's the hiccup in Kansas. You don't get paid much for extra juice creation, and so it aggregates all that data, compares it, and turns out that the payback, if you consider the discounted price of the cash that you invest, is 20 years. And I don't anticipate living in my house for 20 years. By the way, this is precipitated by we're getting a new roof in a couple of months, which costs about as much as the solar. So big investments coming. Do I want to do solar and risk it getting hailed on, or risk my inverter going out? You have to set aside for maintenance on it, and all other your roof might leak. I mean, there's all kinds. We've got trees over these things, so all kinds of yes buts that probably make solar a bad bet for us. And I just thought that was interesting. And this was, I got all this, nice fancy sheets from a folder of PDFs of my electric bills that, by the way, 5 years ago I was throwing away. So I was throwing my own data away, and I wish I kind of had that data back so that I could scan those pages back so I could scan them in. By the way, this is I'm doing this with all my notes too. And last time I did this presentation, I had this stack was significantly smaller, but this is I scanned in all my notes and OCR them, so I can chat now with my notes, with my electric bills, with my water bill, and I'm one sentence away from this kind of analysis with any of that. All right, so that's data. That's the topic, by the way, that I could talk all day about, but I won't. I don't have. Rob doesn't give me that much time. All right, so where are we? So don't throw away data. That's the takeaway here. Yeah, chat with your documents. Just went over that. You can do this with PDFs, docs, Excel, and so one other short anecdote about data. The last paid gig I did ended in June. I was working with a defense contractor, and they have 2 million documents in SharePoint. Absolute nightmare for a data engineer. Getting data out of SharePoint is terrible. Even if you get a PDF out of SharePoint, getting data out of the PDF is terrible. But with AI, we took 1 million of these 2 million documents, put them in Azure Blob Storage, and vectorized them. So we we used an LLM to extract the data out of the PDFs, and then vectorized that data and created a RAG solution. So a pretty complicated AI solution, but they can now chat with their documents. With these 1 million documents, they can chat and say, okay, when was the last time we did a contract like X? And it will pull up that the last time they did that, the documents that are related, and they can go back and forth with this data just with text. And that's data out of PDFs. So it's pretty amazing from the standpoint of data access, and it really is truly changing the economics of data. All right, those are my 2 sample prompts, by the way. If anybody wants these, send me a LinkedIn message. connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me a LinkedIn message. I will send you this presentation. All right. So the next topic. Anybody have any questions, by the way? Any interest in these topics? All right. The next topic. This one I straight up stole from my wife, Jen. David and I were in a conversation with a large manufacturer in town, and one of the guys said, "Hey, Scott, how do I keep the skills that that I'm starting to hand off to AI?" And being from the AI Institute or the Newman Institute for AI and what is it? Common Good, right? Sorry about that. I should have a quick answer to how do I keep my skills up, right? How do I not lose my skills and my worth to AI? So I titled this section, How Not to Turn into an AI Idiot. We talked about that briefly last time, but the last meeting where you don't use these mental muscles and you lose the ability to do things. Like you lose the ability to develop code, or you lose the ability to write creatively or analyze data or whatever. So a little bit more serious topic maybe than chatting with your electric bills. As a result of that conversation, I didn't have a great answer for the guy, right? And Jen and I were on a walk, and I said, this guy asked me an obvious question of how does he keep up the skills, and I had no real answer for him. And I should. And this, I think you will see us come back to this in the Institute over and over and over again, is how do we keep the humanity and the value of humanity in the work we do? So this matrix, I think, is pretty interesting. It talks basically about handing off to AI what you don't do well. And that's the focus of this. Jen, you can feel free to jump in if I butcher it, but the things you do better, you have a competitive advantage, if you will, in creativity, in the things that humans naturally bring to a body of work. And on the other hand, the things you don't do well, like in my case, create PowerPoints, you can hand off, right? And that's kind of it's very much a personal decision. And so this is a pretty good start, I think. One thing I think that it's missing and that I struggled with a little bit is there are things that I'm not good at that I don't want to hand off because I want to get better at them. So one of those is, I guess my metaphor for this is if I want to do squats, right? I want to do squat. I want to improve the weight that I'm lifting in a squat. I'm not going to get a forklift to lift the weight for me, right? I'm going to have to do the squats. Same thing with AI. If I want to get better at writing, I shouldn't hand that off to AI because I'm not going to get any better. I'm just going to be reading whatever the AI puts out and saying, yes, go. So there's more to this, and I think you'll see I think you'll see this discussed a lot from the Institute, and I'm pretty excited about exploring it. It's a complicated topic. It's a fuzzy topic that I'm a geek and I don't like to talk about, but I think it's really important. All right, Rob, I know I'm running out of time, so I'm going to bust it out here.
Let me add something.
Yes,
real quick.
Please.
Right, so you're handing off something something that's out there. But we heard earlier, if you weren't here, from Tanner, what was a really good idea, which is ask AI to explain to you what it did.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's doing code for you, ask it to explain back. Right. So if you know it already, it should make sense. If it did something that you don't quite understand, you may be learning something of a different approach to something you already knew, or it might just be wrong, right? So definitely ask it to explain what it did if you've handed it off, and challenge it. The other piece is go back to first principles. We also heard this earlier from Tanner, where he was really looking at what's the value statement of what he's going to do in AI and what AI is going to do. And he went out and he interviewed people and he talked to people to really find out what the problem statement was and what he needed to solve with AI before having AI solve it. And understanding that first principle. That will really help you when you hand something off, is to really understand what you're trying to get to achieve.
Yeah. I think great ideas. And this is, by the way, something everybody is struggling with. If you're using AI, you're struggling with What do I give up? How do I keep my skills? Is it going to replace me? I mean, it's happening at, everybody has this. It's happening for entire organizations. So, real important to think about. And, this will be a common topic, I think. It's central to what the Institute is going to be working on. All right, so the last one is don't just chat there, build something. And my point here is don't just talk to chat GPT, don't just, interface with it and do the same things all the time. You're not growing. And what I've seen, I've personally experienced this where I've leaned on it really heavily, and I've spent weeks doing not a whole lot myself. I've just been, a proxy. I've been the fingers for AI, and that's not very fulfilling. And you also don't grow. So I had lunch with this guy, Brian Howell. He's local. He used to work at Spirit. He was the chief risk executive or the senior risk executive at Spirit Airlines. Great guy, super smart. We had a great discussion about his product, Crestview.io. Basically, he's taken 25 years of his experience in risk mitigation and governance and compliance, and turned it into this software product, this SaaS product, where he will sell it's a software product that he will sell to an organization, mid-sized organization, and it helps them get compliant and to manage their risk exposure. Not something I have any expertise hardly in at all, but fantastic software, and he did this all himself. His job ended at Spirit, and he basically sat down and said, hey, I know all this stuff. I'm going to create a piece of software that will help organizations apply what I know, and I don't have to be a consultant for them necessarily, but they can benefit from my knowledge via this software. He did it, one guy, not even a software developer, just had business expertise. He created this software, and he's now actively marketing it. So if you know anybody that has risk governance problems or has had a risk event that they want to not repeat, he would be a great guy to consult with and to take a look at his product. But he's doing this all himself, which 2 years ago you could not do that. There's no way. It would have been a team of 10 people at least. Another example of this, there was an Odd Lots podcast a couple of weeks ago talking about in the legal profession and how they're applying how they're applying AI to and seeing it lower the cost of electronic discovery. Right, it used to cost $2 million to do that. Now going down to $200,000 or so, and is allowing these products that they're building, these lawyers are building, allows them to do electronic discovery faster and lower the entry point for getting justice in the court system. So a couple of interesting examples there of building things. I also have, this is what I'm personally working on, and this has kind of become an obsession. So a few months ago, I'm sitting drinking beer with a couple of buddies. Victor was one. We're sitting in my office, and somebody said, hey, what's up with that robot over there? And this thing had been sitting, I bought it for my kids 3 years ago. It sucked. The API was incredibly hard to use, and it would take me 3 days of development to get it to run around a room. I was sitting there thinking, hey, AI can solve that API problem. And it did. It wrote the code to run the API, and it was still crazy slow because I had to write Python code, and it took it 5 minutes to go around. But then I'm down to 15 minutes of, to get it to do something interesting. I'm now on version 4 of the software and version 3 of the stack that sits on top. It now has LIDAR. It has a camera. All this stuff is 3D printed in my office. And I know how to do none of this stuff before. So I took AI, asked it how do I build this tower for the LIDAR? Well, first I had a stack and it was too heavy. So how do I lighten everything up, build this tower for the LIDAR, the mount for the camera? So kind of a toy example, but pretty interesting. It allows me to explore robots, which are coming, by the way, hard with AI. They're going to move AI into the physical world. Anyway, that's my personal example of building something. Okay, last slide here. This is me. Hit me up on LinkedIn if you want the presentation, sample prompts. Give me feedback, topics you'd like to hear more of. We can get Rob in here to talk about his software product and how he goes about developing. I think that would be pretty interesting. So do what? Another Rob. I'm sorry, Brian. I was looking at Rob. Brian Howell. We can get him in here. So anyway, hit me up on LinkedIn. Would love to connect. All right, that's it.